Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Tuesday lighting critique. To get things started, we're going to take a look at Eugene's work here. And basically, I've got no notes for this right now. I just want to tell Eugene what I said in the comments, which is basically move forward and let's go ahead and see a low-res full render of this shot. That's usually how I do it. I'll light some individual frames, and then once I feel good with those, I render it out in its entirety, but I usually do like low res. Even if I plan on using motion blur for the final, go ahead and turn that one off. Just because you'd be surprised at what can happen in the interpolated frames between these keyframes. So I would just do that, and then we can go from there. So really great job so far, Eugene, and I can't wait to see it animated. I think it'll be really cool. Jen, great job with your reference here. The biggest thing is that I just want to see a little bit more dark value here in the foreground. Again, underwater, totally understandable. But one of the things that makes this reference so great is the amount of like the black values on the character and the way we're able to read off of her. So it would just be nice if there was a little bit more of those dark values in the foreground, just a touch more like that. The other big thing that I noticed right away on this shot was just the amount of, it's just kind of like busyness in the eye, and it's because of these reflections. They are probably accurate to whatever's going on in the surroundings, but they are very distracting on the eye. The fact there's like multiple colors, multiple dots. So I would just, usually what I do is actually, I need to look more at the eye geometry on this guy. But basically what I do is I turn off the specularity on the eye, or if there is a outer cornea, if it's separate geometry, I will actually shut that off, like hide that geometry in the base render, and then I will do a reflection pass of that cornea or the eye as a separate render, and then plus that in so you can have more control over that. It's just that like, because the pupil iris is so small, everything else just kind of reads like it's the pupillar iris. So it's kind of, it's kind of hard to read what's going on with the eye at first glance. Somebody said this in the comments that you just go ahead and keep wrapping this rim light all the way around. That would be very cool. It'd also be nice to get a little bit of speck on top of this hat coming across there. In terms of the cards themselves, they're feeling a little blue and a little dark here. It would be nice to kind of just brighten those up a little bit to get them to read a little bit more. It would also be great to get a little bit more bounce light coming in from these cards bouncing up. And then I would soften this shadow just a touch too, to kind of make sure that like it's increasing the radius of that light, specifically because it's off camera, we can play around with it a little more. So just make that a little bit bigger just to soften that shadow just a touch, because I think that could really help soften the overall look of the character. I love the bump on the skin, but I feel like the scale might be a little bit too large, and that's actually making the octopus feel a little bit smaller. It just feels like the scale is a little bit off overall. Yeah, and again, by softening, by increasing the radius of the light and softening that shadow, will also soften some of the shadows down in here, because we're seeing those as being a little bit hard. And I think that will be a really good place to go. But again, this is really, really good. I love the matching to the reference. One other thing about the reference is to notice how the only warm elements of the shot really are her face and her lips in particular. So maybe it'd be nice, maybe you're kind of doing that too with this, but it might be nice to go into the poker chips and change all the red ones to green so that the character is the only red element in the shot. And that might help the character pop off a little more if everything else around it is a cooler tone. Just a thought. Jordan, nice progress here. I like the I like how far we've come in this. I hope you saw the response email. So for those that don't know, Jordan posted reference to this. It was an avatar video that was on YouTube. I just happened to know the person who did it, so I was able to put Jordan in contact with him, and he was able, and right now they have an email exchange going back and forth where they're able to discuss kind of how he made that reference, and so hopefully it can help Jordan with lighting this character. Biggest things are just that, this, whatever light is casting this shadow, would just increase the radius on it. It's like we don't want to see that super hardness. I love, do you see this like bounce light that's coming up here into his chin? Love that. I love, because I just love feeling, because that's what sunlight is, right? It's not only a bright light, it's those secondary elements, and we've talked about that before too. I think the fill might be like a touch too dark, and the way that I would combat that would be to try putting a cool light that only picks up specular highlights in here, and just kind of like put it at like a glancing angle that comes in like that to kind of pick up the contours, and hopefully we can get some specular values in there. And then once you get that, you'll just maybe want to brighten that eye like a touch. You definitely don't want to go as far as this one, but just a touch more. I don't want to go too much into dings, but just swing them over to the other side because that's the direction the light source is coming in on. Trying to think if there's anything else. No, I think that's pretty good actually. Like, and then you know, we mentioned getting the subsurface on the shirt. It looks like there's a little bit there. I'm not sure if you're able to do that or not. Yeah, I think this is overall making really good progress, and wrist looks a lot better. Yeah, we don't have that hard angle. The swoop in the, I hate to be picky about this, that swoop in the arrow, if we could just figure out a way of straightening that out, because it looks so crisp and clean on this head, and this feels a little bit wigglier. So maybe just do that as well. Let's go back here. Now we have, so Dari posted this, and it was funny when I was scrolling through, because I was like, oh, why would he just post the reference image again? Like, I just glanced at it quickly, because this is what the reference was, and I realized, like, oh no, that's his render. It's like, whoa, that is very cool. You've picked up on a lot of the subtle details, and I think that's great. Like the fact that this volumetric light dies off as it goes down. Love the little bit of specular highlight on the visor there. I think this visor is probably about as good as I've seen it look so far, which is very promising. Love you really captured the core essence of the original, which is like the emergence of these tentacles out of the darkness underneath the table, and there's like little pockets of light on the cards. Some areas that I think that could be improved upon. I think that we can go brighter and less saturated with the cards. I think that the table feels a little bit dirty. Like there's a lot of light shining down onto the table, and I would just expect more light to bounce up into these shadows here. You know, maybe just like filling in some of the shadows a little bit, or just making the table overall darker as a whole could be a solution as well, and just like allowing that to be a darker tone and toning that down. The specularity on the skin of the character looks really good. I would also, and this really isn't in the reference at all, but I would also push myself and just give it a try what a rim light all around him looks like, just because he has this unique shape and this unique head bob, and I would just, you know, it would really help read it in through here, but I think overall it would be kind of fun just to have like a rim light all around him there. And then same deal what I was mentioning with gens. I mean, you may want to try this too, just making the chips like greenish, and that way they'll match the cards, and then the character will be the only red element in the shot. But you mentioned doing another version. I think that's very cool. I'm excited to see what you got there. So Danny, you're up next. So again, I know you said that this was just opening a nuke and just trying to figure out some things. Like, yeah, this looks good. You'll just want to soften the edge of this a little bit more, so it's a little bit wider. Yeah, like the gradient on that is good. I know this is just like all temp comp stuff, but just always make sure that you're not doubling up the alpha, because I can just see like a white edge around the buildings there, a white line. So just make sure that you know, you're stripping out the alpha before you merge them together, and using pre-malt and unpre-malt and all that stuff. Yeah, like I said, I know you're just still figuring out the process, so I don't want to talk about the image too much. If you want more feedback on that, let me know. Again, the big thing is just continuing to work with the structure of this and making sure that, you know, we're focusing in the right areas, and then we're getting like, you know, dark over light and just kind of all that stuff. But it's good to see that you're making progress, and we'll go from there. Ashley, very cool. Thank you so much for taking the time to rebuild this. I think it's going to make a stronger piece in the end. I love doing that. If you're mad at me for making you do that, I apologize. But I really do think it's a really good way to practice. Okay, so we've got this core elements. Some ideas is that I still think that we can go brighter in this fill value. I mean, think about this swimming pool as being like think about it as being just like one giant area light, just like a huge light that's just shining light up and all around, and like it'll really kind of fill in some of these values, and I do think it would increase the value around here. Likewise, I think this rim is a great idea. It's just a little bit too strong, and it's a little too broad and a little too strong, and like what we're finding is just kind of like a thinner rim on this character really looks nice. This tentacle looks is a I was gonna say good brightness, but it's a little bit bright for the main character, but I would want to see that more on the head and a little bit less toned down there. The scale and the caustics looks good. Sign back there looks good for now. I would just really focus in on, and then also making the table brighter, because if it's like this close to this lantern, like this would get brighter too. And then that would bounce up onto the character a little bit. Maybe neutralize that color just a little bit more. Just kind of make it a little bit less orange, like 30 or 40% less. Let's give that a try, and then we'll try the next iteration again soon. So I hope that's helpful for everybody. If you have questions, just let me know. All right, happy lighting, everybody.